Okay, so recently I posted a video about the new Maschine 3 update and how I was a little disappointed, and I think a lot of people were a little disappointed to not see some of the things that we've been waiting for a long time. And a couple days went by, and then just recently I grabbed my Maschine Plus and I disconnected it from the computer and I started playing with it. And all of a sudden I remembered how much I love this device. And if you compare it to the cost of, say, a Push 3, which is very similar, I think the cost is a lot less for the Maschine Plus. If you're on a budget or concerned about whether this thing gets updated soon, go buy a used one, and you're going to be able to find something for a very decent price. And then the other thing I want to do in this video is go over the new Maschine Central sort of expansion type thing that comes with the new Maschine 3 update. And when I looked at it in my review of Maschine 3, the first time I looked at the software, I wasn't that excited about it. It has a bit of a sampling of a whole bunch of their virtual instruments and turned into sampled patches that you can use on the machine. So the things like brass, strings, pianos, some of their more esoteric instruments like lores, I think, is in here. But what I'm realizing now is the person this is meant for is the person who's using Maschine Plus on the road, because you can't have those virtual instruments running on Maschine Plus. That's something it just can't do. You can run certain types of contact patches on Maschine Plus. I've got a video on that. I'll send you to that in the description as well. But for the most part, you can't run these high complex virtual instruments on here. So with Maschine Central, you get this smattering of instruments that are completely usable and necessary and wanted on the Maschine Plus. So that pack alone, I think, is well worth picking up if you have the Maschine Plus. Okay, so let's do a zoom out now and see what we actually get if you pick up a Maschine Plus right now. It acts exactly the same as a Maschine Mark III if you plug it into the computer. So not only is it this mobile device, but you can switch the mode that it operates in, and now it's just a regular old Maschine Mark III, no differences whatsoever. And you don't even need audio plugged in at that point. You just plug in straight to your computer and work with it with your audio interface as you would with a Maschine Mark III. Or you can use it as an audio interface, of course. So you can have a microphone plugged in if you have some way of providing phantom power, because it doesn't have phantom power built in, which I wish it did. Anyways, it doesn't. You get a full sequencer. You get these two screens, not a touch screen, so be aware of that, but it's actually not that bad to edit information, to edit MIDI information with the screens. I've got a video on that. I'll send you to that in the description as well. And we'll play around with this a little bit and you'll see what MIDI information looks like on here. It's actually not that bad to manipulate, and you could record full vocals right onto a song as a clip. So I've got some videos on clips. Clips are still not awesome ways to record. It doesn't turn it into a full-fledged DAW in my opinion, but you could literally treat it like one if you wanted. You also have the ability to create complex projects on your computer and then dump them onto the Maschine Plus, making sure you have the right compatibility. And I've done that in the past, and then took an entire song with all of its different patches and did a live show, played with Maschine in a live scenario. And it was probably the most fun I've had with the Maschine. You also get a whole bunch of synthesizers built into the Maschine Plus. And if we go to the browser here, and let's go over to sounds, and you're going to see that we have all of our expansions. And that is another feature that is definitely worth mentioning, is that any expansions you buy for the Maschine, those ones are going to show up in Maschine Plus. You're going to be able to install them on here. I love the expansions. And I love the expansions because, the other day I was working on a video game. I had to do a drum and bass thing. There's an expansion that was made just for drum and bass. I loaded that one up. And I got inspired not only with the beats, so it showed me how to make the beats, and I could make my own that were in the same vein just by following the examples. You go over to groups and you just start listening. And you get these little previews. Really great inspiration from the expansions themselves. So not only do they come with kits that have drum samples and sometimes loops and other things in them, but you also get these sounds. So they're just instruments. Sometimes they're just multi-samples that run up the keyboard. And of course, you can plug a keyboard into your Maschine Plus and play that as well, trigger it from a synth or an external controller. So if I go over to Maschine now, and the Maschine menu under sounds, so we've got something called the polysynth. We've got the drum synth and the bass synth. So if I go over to the polysynth, so let's go over to a blank group and load up a synth patch. Let's try that one there. We set it to keyboard mode. And maybe we'll put it to a minor scale. And then maybe we'll go to our plugin. And if we hit the plugin button, we can turn up the reverb. And you have tons of effects that you can put on every patch in Maschine, of course. Way more than you're going to find on most groove boxes, external samplers, things like that. So we go to beat delay. All right, and then we go back to the synth, and this is where we can go and start making changes to the actual synthesizer itself. You'll see one of 9 pages right there. So there's the filter. You got filter envelope. We can go to the oscillators. We've got 2 oscillators in this one. And if we go to the mix, you can see that we've got oscillator A and oscillator B in this patch. We can turn up noise too. How many voices you've got, you can make it monophonic. We can make it glide. So all of the usual things you could do with a synthesizer, with an analog style subtractive synthesizer, you've got here in the Polysynth. So create your own patches, sit here, play around, tweak them, and take them back over to the computer. We have other synths in here as well. If we go over to instruments, so we've got things like FM8, which is based on the DX7, the Yamaha DX7. So we've got FM synthesis, we've got Contact, which is the ability to load samples, and I've got a video showing you how you can actually bring Contact patches onto the Maschine Plus. We've got the Maschine one, which is going to be the Polysynth, the drum synth, the bass synth, and then we've got Massive, some of people's favorite synthesizer of all time. You've got Massive patches on here. I've got 3,690 Massive patches. And you go, all right, I want like a synth lead sound. And then you got subcategories. We say classic mono, and then we've got one more characteristic. Let's choose something that is tempo synced. All right. It's so easy to find patches in the Native Instruments ecosystem, and that applies 100% to Maschine Plus as well. So we've got Monarch, which is another synthesizer, Prism, another synthesizer, Reactor. So I don't know what aspects of Reactor are actually coming onto Maschine Plus, but that's on there as well. And then we've got a whole bunch of synthesizers and stuff like that in retro machines. And tons of synthesis options. If you load up, say, a Massive patch, go back to the plugin, now you can see all of the different things you can control with Maschine Plus on Massive specifically. So we've got effects. Oscillators, et cetera, et cetera. So another thing you can do with Maschine Plus is use it to sequence hardware. So I have this Polyend synth here hooked up right now via the MIDI settings. So if you go to channel over here and go to input, we can see that I've got the audio coming in from these audio outputs of the Polyend. And then over on the MIDI page, I've got it set to respond to MIDI from Machine's MIDI ins and outs. And I do the same thing, hook up the outputs. So this is now coming into Maschine Plus. I can play around with this patch till I'm happy with it, whatever. Let's just leave that one the way it is. So now what I could do is I could go in, start sequencing from the Maschine Plus. So if I just press record, and that's going into my external synthesizer in real time. So I can go over here and I can start messing around with that. So let's go to the mixer and turn up the delay and the reverb. So this is all happening in real time. It's going out to the Polyend. I can go over to my pattern. I can see the notes that I just played. Looks like I actually played them twice, which I didn't want. You can see the pattern I just recorded on the sequencer. I can do all sorts of stuff to the patterns. I could quantize these notes. So if I just press quantize, they're all quantized now. I could copy the pattern. I could change things in the pattern. I could go and start messing with the notes themselves. So it's actually not that hard to work with the MIDI information in this sequencer. Okay, so let's clear that pattern. That's a little bit boring. So we're gonna go erase that guy. And now what I'm gonna do is quickly show you the auto sampler. You can take just the Maschine Plus to your friend's house with a whole bunch of cables, and you can auto sample their synthesizers. So say they've got some beautiful hardware synthesizers in their studio. You take that thing, you auto sample your favorite patches, and now you've got them on the Maschine Plus in a really optimized sampled format. But you can get really specific, like how long is each sample? How many auto samples do you take? I've got a whole video on auto sampling, which I'll post in the description as well. Auto sampling alone is one of the most powerful features of this thing. So if I go over to sampling, check our pages. You're always going to see these pages, and these arrows take you between them. I'm going to set this to auto, and what that's going to do is turn on the auto sampler, and we're going to sample just for maybe a few seconds, and then you can say how many notes do you actually want to sample. So I'm going to sample C3 all the way up to C4, and then what it will do is it'll stretch the bottom sample all the way down to the bottom of the keyboard and the top one all the way up if you want. You can normalize it. So we might as well turn normalize on because this sample might be a little quiet right now. You can find a loop in a note. So if you play, like, say, a 4-second recording of a synth note, it can actually put a loop in the middle and find the perfect spot for that loop. So when you hold down the note later on Maschine Plus without this thing in your possession, it'll just keep looping that note. And we're going to record every 3 notes, and then you just hit start. And now it's recording a sequence of notes up until we get up to the top of the octave. So now what it's done here is it's made a couple of samples. You can see them right here on the map. And then it's taken the bottom sample and pushed it all the way down the octave, and the top one and pushed it all the way up. It's also normalized everything. So now it might be loud. Okay. And now we can go to our keyboard mode on Maschine Plus here, and we're going to set the mode to, let's try something really weird. Let's go to a jazz mode, and let's go to an altered scale. A very strange scale that I love, and it works really well over altered dominant chords. And watch this. If I turn the volume of the polyend off, now we are hearing that synth patch sampled into my Maschine Plus. Now I can go in Maschine and I can add some effects. So let's go add a reverb. So I usually sample synthesizers without effects on at all. So then I can just add it in Maschine later. Next thing we got to do is go look at Maschine Central. So for the rest of the video, I will just play around with this Maschine Central a bit, but also show you the features of the Maschine Plus in the process. So I'm going to go to my next group, and I'm going to go to browser. And the things you got to know about this new pack is it comes with projects. So it'll actually have projects with beats and notes and stuff like that in it. But we are more interested in making our own music. So we're going to go to the groups, and we're going to go straight to Maschine Central. So with a group, you've got a selection of sounds or audio files, samples that will play when you hit individual pads. So each of these 16 pads will have a different sound on it. That's a common thing in the Maschine world. And as you spin down, you're going to get a little preview. Okay. Okay, so now we got the jazzy stuff. We had glitchy stuff. These are going to probably be loops. Oh, that's fun. Okay, let's load that one up. Tap this in. So I'm going to go about 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we press record. So we're just going to go add reverb. Now metaverb is really nice, but you can do even fancier reverbs like Native Instruments. We're going to go VST3, and they've got Raum on here, which is one of my favorite reverbs. And you know what we should do is go find a few more patches. So let's go to all types and let's go to instruments, and then we're going to go to strings, because here's where we start to get some really exciting stuff, is the instruments that are sampled on this Maschine Central that show up now on Maschine Plus, things we've never really had. Now we've got session strings on here. Let's go to the staccato one. Let's go down the octave. There we go. Remember, we're on a super weird scale right now, this jazz altered scale. Let's try recording something. Let's go look at some more patches, see what else we got on Maschine Central. So I've got instruments, we've got brass now. That's also something that's kind of exciting for me. And little samples from session horns. That's kind of nice. Trumpet. Let's go to keyboard mode. Kind of more trumpet. And a little bit more saxophone down at the bottom. And I've got another way for you to use effects like reverb with the Maschine Plus that totally optimize the system. So right now we have individual reverbs on each of our groups, and some of our groups, like this one here, have individual effects on each sound, and that's where things start to fall apart with the CPU. So if you use something called send effects, you can totally avoid that problem. So anyways. Ooh, mallet. I love mallet instruments. And glockenspiel. Sounds like marimbas. I wish the names were a little easier to read here. That's something that we could use. I think I noticed some wind instruments as well, which is kind of fun. Let's try this Ben Surrey. Okay, this song's getting really weird quickly, so let's just save that and we'll try something else. Now we've got a completely blank one. Let's go back to the browser and let's just go to groups for a second, and we're gonna look for a kit, and we're gonna go to a hip hop kit. Oh yeah, Forest kit, there we go. Four. Let's go back to our trumpets. I'm gonna need to figure out what key we're in. This is a C, C sharp, D, D sharp, so we're kind of in like E flat. So if we go to our keyboard mode here and change our scale to minor, we can set this up by going up semitones, and it's going to get it up to that C sharp or D sharp or E flat. Okay, let's see what else we've got in the Maschine Central. So not only do you get kits and sounds, but you probably also get some loops. You can now see, all right, let's go to a percussion loop. We're gonna try these out. Oh yeah. Let's take that Forest one. I'm gonna load it up. It's gonna be one audio module that will just play over and over if we press play. Cool thing about audio modules is if we speed things up or slow it down. So now let's go to bass synth. We'll go to bass. And we're just going to go to a sub bass and see what we got. Oh, that sounds nice, that last one. All right, let's look one more time at the sounds, and we'll just try loading up a polysynth maybe. And let's go to a synth lead and subtype. Let's go clean. That sounds nice. Hopefully that gave you a quick overview of the reasons I still love this thing and think it's fantastic. And I'm going to get over the features I feel entitled to and just get back to making music. So let me know what you think. Let's be nice in the comments and focus on the good things, right? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.